So we spared everyone the technical things. Oh, and anyone listening, basically, there's going to be a big glut of things falling into Patreon soon, because every year there's only one login for the Patreon, which is Luke's. And every year it logs me out. And then to get back in, he's forgotten the password. So I have to send him a code and then he has to give me the code and we have to time it right. And we haven't done that yet. So I have like 10
That's why
episodes
I'm
of,
only seeing Luke's podcasts on Patreon.
yeah, that's why yeah. So that when I get that squared away, I'm going to probably post like 10 episodes, including this one. So if everyone's curious, that's what happened. I just can't get into the
Yeah,
Patreon at
I
the
wouldn't
moment.
see the videos until you posted them with the actual podcast, and so
Yeah, yeah. There's a few that have aired that I haven't been able to post because I guess April
I
or
was
whatever. I
what
don't
was I just
know.
listening to? I was listening to Caesar and Me. I think I was watching Caesar and Me because I hadn't seen it yet, and with you and Mark. So
I don't rem
yeah,
I don't remember anything I said there. I'm personally, and as far as listening to my own podcast, I'm like 3 or 4 episodes behind. That's
well,
okay
do you
though,
have to
'cause
listen to your own podcast? You're there, right?
I don't listen to all of them. There are some I don't listen to. So, but then there's others where it's kind of fun to listen to it again, you know.
There's a live Discord meeting right now. Too bad we're not there.
Oh, what is
Sorry, we're making our own content.
content being made? Who's in that? That is for genealogy, which is uh,
Could just feed this meeting into their Discord meeting and disrupt it and
yeah, I'm
keep
sure they'd
watching
love
us.
that.
Yeah, but we mute our audio to them so they can't hear what we're saying.
That would just be confusing. Yeah,
Okay,
it's
I'm
been
hearing a plane. Did I hear a plane? I'm hoping they're not going to have sound problems. My
I
UPS has got a bad battery in it, so sporadically it will beep at me, and
okay.
I'm hoping it's not going to do that during the course of this recording, but
Zoom
I never
cuts
know.
most of that stuff out, and I don't tend to do.
It'll be like beep 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 beep.
Yeah,
It'll be pretty loud and obnoxious, unfortunately, and we
if
have
I
to
ever get a
pause.
little more professional, maybe I'll record locals. But until someone's at least paying you to do ads or something, what's the point? When you're doing it for free, it's like I'm just gonna
I
use a
think I
Zoom
tried to
recording.
record a local once just for fun, and I
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
should make a habit of it because it is a good backup, as the good folks over
Well,
at
back on
Roddenberry have learned.
when we did Skype. I had to do it some whack way. It was like I would record onto my iPad and then I don't remember. It was something really weird. And there was one episode where we actually didn't get the other guy on Skype, and then I edited around the episode. So it sounds like we're talking to nobody sometimes. Like, what do you think? And then like someone else just starts talking, like without a response,
Okay.
because I didn't have the guest's audio. Which yeah, that doesn't I mean with Zoom that doesn't really happen because at least you have the basic Zoom recording, right? And then I just sweeten it up a bit and use that. So, um, if I
Yeah,
ever
yeah.
need to step up my
The
game, I will, but I don't have.
the pros do their Audacity recording or whatever local
Exactly,
or
exactly.
QuickTime, I guess, if you have a Mac. I don't
We
know about
used to
Macs.
use Audacity, I think, when we would do Skype recordings. I don't remember. That was actually on Luke's machine, so he was doing that bit and then sending me the audio.
There was some controversy with him a year or two ago. It's like they said you had to like Audacity had to be connected to the internet every time you used it, and people were like, "What? This is just basically a a tape recorder. It doesn't need
Yeah.
to be online while we're recording things. That's intrusive. Stop making us do stupid things, Audacity." And I think they backed down, but I'm not sure. I have to ask Earl. He knows the skinny on that.
No, it's like with the,
Okay.
smartphone games. I'm always or iPhone games. What do people say in the States? Like phone games, smartphone. That's what the smartphone game is. What they say in Japan. So.
Small home games.
Yeah, you ask people, it's like, do you play video games? They're like, no, I play smartphone games. Like, it's the same thing.
Okay. Whichever way you want to do it.
No.
Gallery view. Yeah. Okay. I can either have the Zima sign visible or my face, apparently.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it's
This
like,
camera is in like a tighter zoom, which is probably for the best because
yeah.
my room is still a bit on the messy side.
Oh, I
But I
think
get
I'll
the sign
switch
lit
my,
once.
just while I'm thinking, this doesn't pertain to this podcast, but tomorrow I'm doing Toy Story 3. So I
Oh,
need to do a mascot in the background switch there.
my reference work has been on the bookcase for the last few weeks. I haven't read any of them or later
That's been on my iPad, and I haven't read any of the later ones.
re,
I mean, they're a good read, but
recapped.
At a certain point, it's like I should do the podcast without looking at that. It kind of felt like the right move, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it really shouldn't inform what we're saying, but
Because
he
he's
did make
pretty
all these
distinct,
observations like 40 years ago. So,
like he gives you good trivia, but at the same time, he's very much like this is a good one, this is a bad one, and I don't want that. Like Whipple's while I was waiting, I was just looking at IMDb, and it's like, what was it rated on the Twilight Zone? It's like below Mr. Dingle,
whatever.
which feels wrong.
Well, actually, I do kind of like to hear what his take was on it.
134. Wow, that's pretty low for Whipples. And I don't just I didn't even hear that cough. That's what Zoom does.
Oh, good. So I was going to apologize for not muting that.
No, I saw it happen, so maybe I can be less
That one
of
I muted. Okay.
a Zoom button jockey. I don't know, mute button jockey. Um, let's see what else is new. Uh, oh yeah, I took an evening trip to Disney, and then now I'm tasked with taking another one next month, which I guess that's a good problem to have. But
Oh, you have to go to
I'm gonna get
Disneyland.
the other team lab in because of the Golden Week's coming. It'll be a little crowded, but the other. There's two team labs in Tokyo. The crazy installation art, digital installation arts. I'll do the second one of those. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah.
those pictures you posted were pretty interesting. I'm gonna
Oh, yeah.
regret drinking this carbonated drink during this podcast. I know it.
Well, I probably won't hear you burp because Zoom cuts that out. So,
Well, my
okay.
UPS, like I said, it has been misbehaving, but there's no red light on it, so I'm hoping we're not going to get a beep
Oh,
in the
do you
middle
have
of
the
this.
opening narration anywhere within iShot?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Just asking
These
as
are the players with or without a
yes,
scorecard.
just asking as a courtesy because it's nicer to do it before the show than later. I did
All
do a
right,
good
well,
edit on the Space 1999, not the Planet of the Apes. Well, it's podcast 1999. It comes out next week because Chris Claremont was on the set of The Cure, X-Men writer Chris Claremont, and he had written an article, and Mark was reading it because he was like, "This is such weird beatnik crap." I was like, "That's how all his X-Men stuff sounds." I was trying to find something specific, but I was trying to go on a website that is like broken itself or something, so I didn't actually find it till we were finished with the show. But I was like, I'll take that part and just chunk it into the show itself. So tell me how sloppy the edit is or not if you listen to that.
oh, don't worry, I will listen to it.
Did you ever were you ever an X-Men reader, especially in the 80s?
No, I had friends who were really into Marvel 80s stuff like X-Men, and so I kind of hear secondhand about things like Wolverine, Kitty Pryde,
Right.
all
Yeah,
the
because even
all
the
the new stuff
animated
that was
show from the
going on.
90s, one, I was a little too old to really be into it when it came out. I mean, it is good, but and also I had read the entire Chris Claremont run like three times, so I'm like, why do I need to watch this show? It just dumbs down all the stories, you know? And I mean, it didn't dumb it down like it was dumb. It was just, obviously it wasn't like a 10 issue comic arc. It was just now two part, two 22-minute episodes. You can't
I
have all this
remember
much
Days of
detail.
Future Past being a big arc. Everyone was very excited about it, and then so I was like, "Oh, I can't wait to see the movie." So I
That
did.
one's surprisingly short in the comic book. I think it's only two issues in the comic book. So maybe they
Yeah,
got
but it
most
was.
of that
I
in
thought
there.
it was several because it was so epic. It was an epic
Oh,
story.
I mean, they go back to it and they'd have repercussions, but the original arc is just two issues. It's real short. It's just like one little mission and we're out. And then yeah, they kept going back to there and having
Oh,
characters come from there and they
shows
definitely
Rhino.
dwelled on it, but yeah. But it's Whipple time, so let's give it a 5 second pause and I will start this episode.
And let's shoot this piece of shit, as Harrison Ford would say.
Welcome to Time Enough Podcast. It's where we replace all of the episodes of The Twilight Zone with machines. It's the brain center at Whipple's today. This is Matt here. Coming back is Brian. Brian likes titles with brain in it.
Wait, I thought this was the Bryan Center at Whipple's. That's why I came. Oh,
Oh,
darn it.
crap.
Happened again. No, it's
Well,
true. I do all the brain stories as much as possible. I miss Space Brain,
or,
but I got
or
Brian the Brain, so that's a double whammy. It's Brian and Brain.
right. Or as was in my spam folder once, it was a dirty ad saying do something her Brannis out. The word Brannis always sticks in my mind now.
I don't even want to know what that means. Okay.
Well, sometimes you gotta check your spam folder. Like I was just telling you before we recorded, like I got a team lab ticket, right, for the digital installation in Tokyo. And a day or two later, it's like, wait a minute, just here's just the thing to buy the ticket again. Because I bought the ticket and it sent the link for the ticket into my spam folder. So I'm like, hey, I just paid like, 35 bucks for that. What the hell? Why is it in my spam folder? So that's what brain
Thanks,
centers
guys.
do, man. That's what AI does. You buy a ticket, throws it in your spam folder.
Well, yeah, I guess you're just gonna jump into it and we're gonna be like, gee, how much of this episode resonates with today's world?
It doesn't seem to have anything to do with the modern
Uh,
world, does it?
Nothing at all. I mean, we're not analog. We don't have giant reel-to-reel tape decks on
That's
our computer consoles
right.
anymore.
That's right. We blew up
That was
all
one of
our
the refreshing
computers.
things about, with maybe one or two exceptions. I think Star Trek didn't really go into the, big tape reel. Um,
Oh, the big tape
uh,
reels. Well, say they had the ultimate
yeah, that
computer.
paradigm
So,
where if it's a computer, it's got to have big tape reels on it. Even the Prisoner did it with the General and everything. But the Star Trek was more like, we're going to have these strange little, multicolored cards that you stick in computers and, get
well,
information on.
my father was a computer programmer in the 80s, and as a kid, I spent quite a time in that super chilled room of two giant reel-to-reel computer machines. I don't even know how that works, you know?
Trying to remember if I saw such things at college, like first class I took, just for almost just for grins. I mean, this was in the 80s by now, but it was like we had to do one assignment on punch cards. So we had to go buy one stack of punch cards. We actually punched holes in the cards and fed them in the machine, and we programmed the computer with punch cards just once, and that was kind of fun. It was definitely the end of an era. And I
Very
used
time
those punch
consuming.
cards I used them as like post-it notes. I used them as scratch pads for years until I ran out. And now I regret it because now they're like, collector's items or something. They're vintage cards that you
Oh,
can't really find anywhere.
in my office once, teaching kids, there was a junior high student or something, and so I was like, "What are you doing?" She asked, "What are you doing this weekend?" I'm like, I'm playing the cello." I'm like, "What are you doing this weekend?" She's like, "I'm playing the cello." I'm like, "What?" She's just repeating what I'm saying, but it turned out she was a cellist. So then I went to print out like a Bach sonata just to be like, "Oh, do you know this piece?" Right? And then it printed out like 50 of them by accident for some reason. So around work, like half of the scrap paper. Even now, there's a few papers like in booklets and stuff, and there's like this box sonata on the other side of it. So, excuse me,
I love
Brahms. It was Brahms.
printing out like a ticket at work where it's like an email reply. So the most prominent thing is the last thing that was written, and then the previous email and the previous email and the previous,
Oh,
and
right,
all
right.
you want is that page one, and you get like 10 pages of backstory that you don't need anymore, and now you
And then
just
it starts
wasted
to
9 pieces of
jumble it
paper.
up or something on your iPad. God, we're such Luddites coming into this. I should mention also you were here for Old Man in the Cave, and this is the same computer in Old Man in the Cave. That's the bit of trivia I did not put in trivia.
I kind of thought it was.
Yeah, so reuse props, Robbie the Robot, and
I
that.
was doing all
So
the computer episodes except for
Agnes.
Agnes.
Okay, this easily better than Agnes. You got the correct dole out on that, I think.
Oh,
I don't know.
okay.
Maybe you
Well,
like Agnes better. Hey, you can if you want. I thought this one was better.
all right. Well, let's
We'll
talk
get
about
into
it.
that. Okay, here's some trivia. The original air date was May 15th, 1964. Script is a Sterling. Richard Donner directed. You make some Twilight Zones, you make some Superman, you make some Goonies. Hell, give him Maverick if you want. That's being a workman director legend. Richard Deacon was Wallace V. Whipple. If you dig old school sitcoms, you'll recognize him from The Dick Van Dyke Show and Leave It to Beaver. Walter Hanley was played by Paul Newland. His main claim to fame was his role as Captain Gray on NBC's M Squad. You ever watch that? I didn't. I'm not even quite. That's not the Mod Squad. It's a different squad, right?
The M Squad.
Yeah.
I didn't know
Sounds
there was an
familiar.
M Squad. I remember Mod Squad.
Well, that's why I'm sitting here. I'm like, M Squad. Are those different? I don't know. Haven't watched either. Didn't see the movie either because they did the Mod Squad movie.
Which actor was that?
Oh, that was Paul Newland in M Squad. I don't know. That's what the page was like. That's his main claim to fame. I'm like, cool. That's why I wrote his main claim to fame. Okay, that's my writing. Uh, Moving on down the list. Ted DeCorsia played Dickerson. His trade was in hard-edged roles in films like The Lady from Shanghai, The Naked City, and The Enforcer. The technician was Thalmus Rasulala. He's got blaxploitation gold with roles in Blackula, Willie Dynamite, Cornbread Earl and Me, and Friday Foster, to name a few. He was also an original cast member for the first 2 years of ABC's One Life to Live.
Did you
Robbie,
get the Twilight Zone? I'm sorry. Did you get the Star Trek reference from him?
oh, I didn't. No, hit that. I got stuck in the blaxploitation. Once I see
Well,
Blackula
well,
and
first of all,
Friday
he
Foster,
changed
I
his
get
name in the
distracted.
70s. He converted to Islam. That's why his name is Thalmus Rasulala, but he was originally Jack Crowder, and he's credited as Jack Crowder here. But by the late 80s, he was in season 2 of Next Gen as Captain. I forgot what the
Captain
captain's name
Thalmus?
was. Captain Varley, I think, of the USS Yamato, the first Galaxy class ship we
Oh, yeah.
see outside of the Enterprise for about 3 minutes.
Yeah, I was about to say that one
And
blows
then
up
it
real
blows
good.
up real good.
That's not even a spoiler in that episode.
Jinx, we said it at the same time too. We blow it up real good. Yeah,
And of course, Robbie the robot appears as himself.
good
It's
old
it,
Robbie.
this is he only in two Twilight Zone episodes? I feel like he's in five of them for something or something. I
There's a
guess it's
third reference. There's a toy Robbie in One for the Angels way back at the very beginning of the season, the show.
right, right. And then there's still the one in the Rip Van Winkle caper where I'm like, that is Robbie, but it's presented as something else, I think, like as a weird future car. But I think it still has
Oh,
Robbie
Robbie's
in it.
car was in it, yeah,
Right,
in
okay, is that
Rip
just
Van
I
Winkle.
guess I
But
just
Robbie himself was not in it, I don't
I
believe.
guess I just envision Robbie in his little car. Okay, that's
Oh,
why.
those Forbidden Planet props they just keep on giving. That's amazing.
Yeah, and I guess if I see not an inner roster, that's the Silent Earth. What is this machine and Forbidden Planet? We see bits of that, the id machine or whatever
The
it is.
Krell machine.
Did I
Yeah,
just
the
say
inner
the
roster
Krell
is
machine?
from this Island Earth, right?
Yeah,
This
I
Island Earth
know.
is, yeah,
But that's one of the best words ever, inner roster. This
it
episode should
is
have
a
had an
good
inner
word.
roster.
I don't
uh,
think we see Robbie again until early Lost in Space, where he plays the Robotoid, the evil robot.
ooh. If you could go ahead and give us a bit of opening narration, please.
I'll give it a try. These are the players, with or without a scorecard. In one corner, a machine. In the other, one Wallace v. Whipple, man. And the game, it happens to be the historical battle between flesh and steel, between the brain of man and the product of man's brain. We don't make book on this one and predict no winner, but we can tell you for this particular contest, there is standing room only in the Twilight Zone.
Man, I'm trying to look for like a 60s picture of not Robbie, but the Lost in Space robot, just because my brain needed to see it to work it out properly from Robbie. And it's amazing how much I'm just getting of reboots of Lost in Space. To find the 60s one was actually somewhat difficult. I had to scroll down a
Oh,
bit,
you
which
got
is
like the
crazy.
Netflix Lost in Space, and you got like the 90s Lost in Space with Gary Oldman and
Correct. Which I saw an opening day and have never seen since. Is that one like secretly good or anything? I remember hating it when I saw it in the theater, but 25 years later, that's not necessarily the case. It could be
you should
charming
talk to those
now.
guys at the Sci-Fi Sanctuary. I bet they watched it.
Yeah, yeah. No, they
Oh,
skipped
wait.
that one. But
I
that
only
is
saw the
one
first
of
episode of the Netflix one. Is it any good?
Mark, who is usually around here, I believe, was into it. I mean, he'll correct me if I'm wrong, I guess, because he listens to this. But
Let me guess. It's darker and edgier than the original.
I would imagine so. I mean,
Like every remake ever now.
I was like Sesame Street was darker and edgier than the original Lost in Space. Well, maybe not season one, but later seasons. Um, so I guess I did say I kind of like this episode okay, but I will start on the negative Nelly side and just say I thought Richard Deacon was not very good in the title role. I don't know. How do you feel? Am I getting it wrong? Yeah.
Well, he has a career of playing, total prats, right? So unlikable characters. So we're supposed to not like him. Mission accomplished. We don't like him.
Well, no, no, but I didn't like the delivery. We had our Bellington Roswell Farmington, whatever his name was, a few weeks ago in Sounds and Silences, who's completely unlikable. I was like, the actor is like, getting traction, right? The wheels are hitting
Hmm.
the tarmac with this performance. Even from Agnes with Love, before we record, I was like, this is better than Agnes with Love. But I thought the lead performance was better in Agnes with Love of another unlikable weirdo. So this is, I guess this is an unlikable weirdo that just seemed a little flat for me.
Yeah, yeah, he was very one note, progress, 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 and yeah, he was kind of hard to be sort of a two-dimensional character, and so that's kind of what he was, except for the very end when we're suddenly supposed to be sympathetic toward him or something.
And yeah, it's like, oh, it kind of bonk bonk on the head, crit, hypocritical. You see where I'm going with this, and my
Yeah.
brain's exploding. Um, and then the technician, that guy who Jack, whatever was his name at the time. Well, Thalamus is a cool name. We're going to keep calling him that. But he
Thalamus,
was
good
so
cool name.
good in that scene that the contrast of me not really being into Richard Deacon's performance was kind of like jarring.
Yeah, we had like three foils for him, and they were, I think, progressively better. I mean, the chief engineer guy was kind of like, yeah, okay, you're going to ruin the company by firing everybody and replacing us with machines. And then the second guy was angry about it,
Yeah.
and you can tell something's going to happen with him. In my notes, that's kind of like, uh, is he going to sabotage the machine? And then he's going to, okay, now he's a drunk at the bar. Is he going to sabotage the machine in the next scene? Oh, he's sabotaging the machine.
He
Called
did a
it.
good sloppy drunk, I think. Drunk
Hmm.
drunk acting is not always the easiest thing.
I kept hearing shades of the sort of trolls that are being inflicted upon another major corporate person who's prominent in the news these days. Things like, you have no friends and you'll die alone. It's like, wow, that one has been used lately. And it's like, oh, well, just, that one goes back a ways, I guess.
I guess it is interesting. I mean, one of the things, of course, this episode is pretty prescient. But in 1964, they wouldn't have really even considered AI much. Actually, Agnes of Love has more of the AI angle, doesn't it? This one is very much just
Yes,
automation and,
this
the
is
think
all
and
about
calculate.
dumb automation. There's really no AI. I mean, when I saw the title and then, in the promo materials, he robbed the robot, you think, okay, this is a story about an intelligent, sentient machine that's going to take over something, right? That's where your brain automatically goes. It doesn't do any of that. In fact, I don't want to jump too far ahead to the end of the show, but in terms of the trippiness, it's like the Jeopardy room before it is like there's not much of a supernatural or bizarre element to this story. I think the only weird thing that happened was he had a bit of a mental snap and started hearing voices in his office with all the machines around him, but it was never made clear that the machines are talking to him. The machines aren't coming at him and trying to, influence him in some way. I think it's just all in his head.
Oh,
Of
my,
course, half the Twilight Zones in the world are like,
yeah.
was this a mental episode or was it something bizarre? And usually the twist is revealing, oh, it was something bizarre. There was a creature on the wing of the plane, right? After all.
Mhm. I
So
guess the thing is the Jeopardy room was kind of like well, having Martin Landau down there, it's like a Mission Impossible almost, right?
it
And
pretty much, yeah.
this one, the technology in it at the time is quite fantastical and science fiction, right? I mean, to a certain degree, I guess people understand there are computers that can do this sort of stuff, but automating a 500,000 employee company in 1964 with a machine doesn't can you do that in 1964? I mean, even now
With yeah, a
you'd have a
tape
few
deck on
more
a
you'd have a few more people on the floor now. I mean, I hear horrible things about what like Amazon hub centers, but they have people. It's not like the technicians talking about the end where it's like there's no people around here anymore.
well, yeah. There's no visualization of how the machines are doing the automation. There's no robot arms doing things. There's because they don't have the budget for that.
Yeah,
All
you
we
can't.
get is the
The
tape deck, giant tape deck in his office, and says this is the greatest thing ever. Also,
Mhm.
you notice he always just buys these things. Well, who's making these machines? He's not innovating. He's not making anything himself. Sound familiar? He's not making
Well, yeah, I was
anything
about to say our
himself.
big tech guys didn't make this stuff themselves. They were basically like they're the solid
They just have
salesman
money
or
and they
the
go buy
effective
another
salesman.
company and then they suddenly they're the biggest manufacturer of stuff in the world. And it's like, oh, okay, but did you invent it? No. And
I
he
mean, I
proudly
talk
says,
about
oh, I just bought this. It's great, isn't it?
I talk about Disney over Call It Disney and going through their anime and movies sequentially. It's funny watching them continually try to get the boy market, and then eventually about 2012 just saying screw it and buying Star Wars and Marvel, right?
Yeah, wasn't there some discussion lately about they could have done something with John Carter? They made a big budget movie, which I've yet to see, but I've always wanted to. I've heard it was not bad at all.
I
But
think
rather
it's a
than do
very
a franchise based on that, they just turned around and bought Lucasfilm. So yeah.
yeah, exactly. John Carter, I think it's a actually a very good movie where the two leads suck.
Oh,
Like
okay. So
I
there's
just
an acting
I
issue.
I don't like, I mean, they're just bland. It's not even like bad acting. It's just like they don't pop off the screen for me. They don't have that movie star quality for me watching it for whatever reason, which, um, yeah, but it is a pretty good movie. I mean, there's so much spectacle, like that doesn't matter. It is kind of a bummer
Uh-huh.
that's considered like the biggest flop of the universe or whatever. So
Yeah, well, I want to give it, a fair shake and watch it sometime, but
we
um
just covered Mars Needs Moms, which is like it's the fourth biggest flop ever, which is like what, huh? Because nobody even thinks about that movie, you know? That one's such a flop that it's like
Mars needs moms.
yeah, yeah, because John Carter at least is like a notorious flop that everybody knows, right? Whereas Mars Needs Moms, like what, huh?
It's not on the filth list, huh?
No, no, no. It's just flop as in like it cost a bunch of money and it was like 200. No, here, I can give you the stats on that if we want to be specific. Mars needs Mars. It was some insane. Okay. Is this the right
I didn't know
podcast
what
to start
context
looking?
you were didn't know what context you were covering it in.
Let's see. John Carter had a budget of 300 million. That's insane. Okay, box office 284. So it made money, but it just cost so much that it became a flop, right?
Yeah, okay.
And then once you think of the marketing stuff, it completely ate it. Uh, Martiny's Moms was $150 million budget and made 39.2 million. So you can see where that just like, you know, that's violently bad. That's not good if that's what happens with your movie.
Catastrophically bad. I'm
That's
gonna have to look
catastrophically
this.
bad.
Gonna have to look that one up now. Mars needs 2011. Oh, it's a Seth Green film.
Oh yeah, yeah. Seth Green is mocap in it, and they have a 9-year-old. He's made to look like a 9-year-old Seth Green, and it's like it doubles the uncanny valley. It makes the valley that
Ooh.
much deeper. The voice is someone else, and then at the end there's a few outtakes, and then they show you the filming of the movie, which is people wearing giant harnesses in a big white room. I'm like, oh, making this movie looks like actual hell. Like it, usually they show
This looks
behind the
like a
scenes of
CGI
response.
film, right? It's not
Yeah, yeah, it's
actual live
mocap. It's
action.
mocap. So that it
Oh,
was actors in a big white room wearing giant harnesses and yeah, that's how they made the movie.
so
So
it's mocap animation. Okay, because it's definitely got animated
it's
vibe
the
to it.
same as
Okay.
the Jim Carrey Christmas Carol. It's the same technology as that movie because Zemeckis did two movies with whatever that production company was. So yeah, there we go. That's Zemeckis is sitting there like, hey, we don't need sets. We don't. I mean, he still needed actors, I guess, but he was automating everything. We got these uncanny valley monstrosities. I guess some people like Beowulf. Okay,
The
Polar
irony is,
Express is that's like the
yeah,
poster child of uncanny valley, right?
right. The irony is that someone's going to remake this episode of Twilight Zone with AI, and so there'll be no humans involved in it at all.
It was going to be AI canceling out other AI. Other
Yeah,
AI
it'll
gets
just they'll just
fired.
feed the script into it and give it some parameters, and they'll do a Rod Serling impression, a bad one like mine, and then that'll be done.
So I don't know. One, yes, no one's going to be like, what this guy's doing is a good idea and makes sense. I think even today, it's like this guy sucks. He is giving everyone 4 months severance. Like that's not. I mean, I guess that's okay if he's going to throw his
Yeah,
company down
yeah.
the toilet. I mean,
I think the best I ever got was two. So
yeah.
go
So,
60s.
yeah, yeah, go 60s, I guess. Maybe in the 60s, that's not a good deal. I don't know, but and yeah, I mean, what's like in the government where they asked everyone to quit, and are they getting paid? Or are they not getting paid? It's very. He makes it clear that everyone's getting paid for 4 months. I guess that like slight makes him slightly sucky lesser luck. less sucky. I can't talk today. It's weird.
I see you and I didn't send you my notes and tag the same line. I'm not selling pride, I'm selling product.
Right, exactly. So I guess there just is the thing is like, am I going to engage with people? How much is going to be business and how much is going to be humanity, you know? So would be
Hmm.
another way to say that, which obviously Whipple is choosing fully, business and
I
being a
find this
prick about it.
metaphor of it being steel, man versus steel, kind of funny when it's really kind of man versus silicon. But I guess that wasn't really in the zeitgeist to refer to
Yeah.
computers as silicon-based things, which they are. So
And we already had Steel,
call it
right?
steel. Yeah, we had a guy named Steel already.
A guy named Steel, yeah. Which I guess kind of gets this point across in a more effective way or whatever, maybe. I feel like that metaphor is more interesting of the boxer that's just like, I'm going to fight this machine, you know?
Hmm.
Uh,
As I say, it's mano a mano, really, just head on, fight the machine.
I mean, I did love the crazy room at the end of this, where we don't know if he's hallucinating or if the machines are actually going nuts, which is pretty much how Agnes ends too. So just throwing that out there. But like that's a
Well,
nice
Agnes
money
is a little of
shot.
both, right? Agnes is intelligent, but she also drives people crazy.
Yeah.
So you
Well, I just
get
wrote the
both of them.
yeah, I just wrote the crazy room. Yeah, I guess a big difference is Agnes has a personality, and there is no personality in this machine. The personality is all centered on Mr. Whipple, which is, as I said, yeah, I found him extra annoying because he seemed a little flat too.
I noticed that, Dickerson dodged a murder charge by apparently not being a very good shot when he decided, not Dickerson, Whipple, he decided to shoot Dickerson to stop him from smashing his machine.
We all make our best decisions blackout drunk, don't we?
No, but it's like they obviously couldn't kill the character because then he would be arrested, there'd be a trial, and that would be the end of the episode. We couldn't carry on to the end if he was incarcerated. So, but there should have been a scene of him at a police station, getting some sort of interrogation before he was just released back into the public. But actually, I thought about it and I was like, well, maybe a courtroom drama would have been a nice capper to this. They could have just shifted gears and it could have been more like, Data on Trial and Measure of a Man or something. It's like, I don't know.
Well, it's like where I teach, I mean, we are having the AI thing now where the company's like, oh, well, we could make materials and stuff really quickly with AI, but then there's like, well, shouldn't we be doing that, and not just AIing it all, like I've recorded some music there and it's like, oh, we just make AI songs. Like, hey, I could do the music, folks.
Yes, me, human, I can create things. You don't need AI.
It ain't a problem. So,
Oh, here's another fun line like inconveniences like maternity. Hmm.
right. Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
another thing that kind of rings true to this. Oh, misogyny. Yeah, it's back.
Well, my daughter was born on a Saturday, and I went to my a part-time job at the time on Monday at least. So, um,
Hmm.
yeah, I know. So paternity, maternity, I guess is a little different, just because if you are the mother, you really do need a bit of time off there, like just physically.
Yeah, of course, of course.
And they don't give
But
enough
it's
of
that
that
sort of
either,
thing.
especially these days. Maybe in the '60s is better for that. I don't know. Not for paternity leave, but for maternity leave.
I thought it was interesting because it did, at least for a brief moment in this episode, touch on the fact that there are probably women in this workforce he's laying off too.
Right, right. Um,
Because I don't think we see a woman in this entire episode, do we? We see like basically three guys and Robbie.
I don't believe there is one on the
Not in the
list.
credits. I mean,
That's
it's kind of like a stage play. It's one of those episodes where it's very minimal. It's only two or three actors.
we got one, two, three, four, five, six, seven because we do have the bartender, right, and the watchman, and I didn't do like trivia on them in part because you couldn't click on their name on Wiki, but and also because they're just kind of there. They don't have that much to do.
Yeah, they're just background. They're not really doing anything for the plot. But yeah, we don't see we don't see a single worker at all outside of that office because he pushes a button and the parking lot is empty. I thought, oh, he has a button that makes cars disappear, and it's supposed to be just the place emptying out
Oh, another
because
bit here that was a bit strange was 1967 was a really weird date to put this in. 3 years in the
Yeah, yeah, the
future.
future. It's the future.
Of 3 years in the future. I mean, like right now, if they're like, it's the future of 2028, it's like, I guess.
Doesn't
Sure.
2027 just sound more futuristic? Yeah, well, remember, I don't know if, well, I don't know if they were considering syndication back then, but a lot of television was like one and done, right? It's like, we're just shooting this for now. I don't care what people are going to think about it 10 years from now. We'll
We
just,
already had two episodes earlier this season, which were like, it's the 1974, right? Or
yeah.
there's one that was like
Steel, I think, was
73.
74.
That
Steel?
Steel was 74, and there's another one that maybe one of the nuclear horror episodes or something. Horror episodes was also 64. Um, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, 74, excuse me.
They
So,
tend not to think too far ahead in there, Only later do we get shows like Deep Space Nine saying 2024. Oh, that's way off in the future. That's 30
eh.
years from this. No one's going to remember that. And of course, here we go.
And
Talking about how
well,
relevant
I
that
don't,
story was.
as well as I don't know if 2024 was any better on what they are showing there. So,
Yeah, exactly. So that
so
made it relevant
they might have
still.
actually gotten it kind of right there, which isn't great.
Mm,
You know,
yeah, I was waiting for the.
the specifics, of course, are different, but if the specifics were the same, that means reality has broken. Are there
I
any
like the
other?
fact that we got to use the bar twice because we got to milk that set for all it was worth. That wicker. What was it, Tiki Lounge or something? It had a wicker entrance or something. I thought it was a tiki bar for a minute.
Yeah, I think I actually did have that little take. And once you get inside, it's clearly not. But yeah, there was just a second of that going on. So
And then Whipple goes on about retirement. It's good that people retire. Again, it's like, oh, you just been retired, haven't you?
you
That's why retirement sounds so great to you. You're trying to talk yourself into it. Uh,
are retired, and then you blow them away. Yeah.
and he was replaced by Uncle Simon.
Right. Well, that's yes, that's Robbie's like a scab on the show. He just replaces other people.
Do you think, well, since it made it very clear that he was behaving like Whipple, do you think they just pulled an Uncle Simon and put Whipple's brain in Robbie so he can spin the key fob around and be a jerk, just like Uncle Simon's robot was a jerk, just like Uncle Simon?
Yeah,
It kind
yeah,
of almost sounds like it's a sequel to Uncle Simon.
yeah. Although is it weirder if you put like we'll say memory engrams since we're Trekkies, but and Uncle Simon
Rams.
and
Yeah.
Uncle Simon, the guy was dead, and now the robot's taking his place, and Whipple's just fired. I guess he's what is it, a CEO, so the board can fire him. That's how it works.
Yeah. Yeah. But then who's the guy who walked in with Robbie and said, here, an executive that can sit at a desk and spout things just like this guy can. You're fired.
That should have been the Dark Knight consequence. Once Batman uses that surveillance stuff, Bruce Wayne ends up getting fired from his own company again. You know, there's comeuppance for these sorts of things. I guess he
True,
doesn't. I
true.
guess when we get to the next movie, he ain't doing that well. So, basically,
Well,
that did happen more or less. Um, any other big points you want to throw on this one before I start asking questions?
oh, you made a pet sounds joke. Can you record pet sounds on this? Okay.
Yeah. Where
Giant
did
tape decks, man. What
where
can you do
did
with
the
them?
There was something I can't remember the specifics. Oh, I do remember. It was the guy that has the fake Oval Office in his house. Do you have any idea? Paul Luntz or something? Conservative commentator. Anyway, he's got, and then there's like he has all this random weird stuff in his house, and one thing is like, oh, here's the machine that they mastered pet sounds on, and it's just like sitting in his house. So that's why that came to mind. So, but do check out this guy's Oval Office. It's insane. It's in his house. He's got a little like if you were say coming over for dinner, he'd be like, come over here, and the curtain opens, Hail to the Chief starts playing, and he has this Oval Office reconstruction. So it's kind of bizarre with a Pet Sounds lathe machine or something sitting in there. But this is the Brain Center at Whipple's, and we're going to talk about who in this episode goes in or through the Twilight Zone.
Oh, well, again, I think as I mentioned earlier, not too supernatural or trippy to me. I mean, that's a trippy thing, but who goes in the Twilight Zone is like, well, I guess Whipple did for a hot minute when he kind of had a meltdown toward the end, and it triggered his being fired from his own company. But it's not like the robots or the machines um, rose up against him or anything. I think it all kind of happened in his head because there's nothing really explicit if tape had spooled off of that reel and started wrapping around his neck trying to kill him or something like that.
That would have
Then
been
you go,
fun.
okay, the machines have some agency and they're doing it, but I
Well,
don't
we
get that
did that in the
impression
thing
from
about
this one.
machines, didn't we? So we
Yes,
have been there
exactly. That
before. It's
was
not like we haven't done
we've
it
been
before.
there. The
Um,
machine's not affecting him psychologically through talking to him like Agnes. So
but yeah, I think he's fully in the Twilight Zone when it's the crazy room sequence, you know?
yeah.
Also, I guess he's just in the Twilight Zone of corporate thought, you know? Like when you can't like associate with people, is that kind of a or is that just, being an a-hole, you know? Um
It's a note about Dickerson. It's like, I'm a man. It took a man to kill me or
well,
whatever,
he's
to
in the
stop me,
blackout
whatever.
drunk zone. He's not in the Twilight Zone. He's in the blackout drunk zone in this
I was
episode.
thinking, I'm a man standing in front of an incel asking that he loves him.
Right. So Dickerson, blackout drunk zone. Whipple, yeah, I'm gonna give him the Twilight Zone. Everyone else just gets fired. That's not a Twilight Zone. That just sucks.
Yeah, well, Whipple, yeah, for that one scene, things get weird, but it doesn't to me have that really weird twist to it, you know. You can lead audiences along like think, oh, your main character is probably nuts. But even though you're watching through their eyes and you see the things they do. And at the end, it's revealed, oh, there is something weird going on, you know. Good old Shatner in the plane is the prototypical example of that. And we don't really get that in this one, so
No, and that might have to do with the second question. Does this guy deserve his trip into the Twilight Zone?
oh, I think
I,
we would just both say yeah.
I mean, this is so. We'll use that bonk bonk on the head phrase
Bonk
for
bonk
that.
on
This
the
is
head.
like one of the most deserving guys ever for that. Um, like it's stealing
Two
candy from
guys
a
in
baby.
2025 talking about corporate CEOs being deserving their trip. Yeah.
Let's see. The closing narration: man becomes clever instead of becoming wise. He becomes inventive and not thoughtful. And sometimes, as in the case of Mr. Whipple, he can create himself right out of existence. Yeah, if we had a when the sky was opened, he actually doesn't exist anymore. I guess that would be a little more Twilight Zoney. But again, you can't.
Oh
It's
man.
like this guy is such a plain kind of horrible. It's almost like you can't like supernatural twist him because he just does suck, right? So why add the irony? You already everyone wants to see this guy get his comeuppance.
Well, yeah, well, that Danger Room or I mean the Jeopardy Room or what was the one from a while back? The guy staying silent for a year, you know,
So the
these
silence.
stories that are more, yeah, the silence, yeah, that's easy to remember. And he doesn't go through a Twilight Zone thing. It's just it's a thriller or something like that. It's more like a Hitchcock episode than a Twilight Zone
I just love
episode.
it in Jeopardy room. He answers after one ring, and he knows what's going to happen, or at least someone told him what was going to
Yeah, you
happen.
just
Maybe he
talked
wasn't
about that
listening.
one, and yeah, it was like really you're that dumb, Boris? Okay, whatever.
That makes the episode funnier. Okay, so let's get to that tripometer. Where do you want to put it? This one, 0 to 5.
Oh gosh, I'll give it a one for the trippy scene, but there's no like I said, there's no zone there. It's not zony. Doesn't have a lot of zone to it.
There's not a
Other
ton of
than it's
zone.
kind of a vaguely, futuristic 1967 is the future, sci-fi vibe to it. Like this is what's going to happen in the future, which doesn't seem so trippy now because again,
Yeah,
it's we've
I'm
passed
willing to
it
give
so
a little
far.
credit for that. Any Twilight Zone with a money shot like this one has, being that the crazy room sequence, for me that adds a little bit. I'll go a little higher and give it a 2.5 for those reasons. Kind of down the middle. There's enough weird. Maybe that should be the weirdo meter in this case. But yeah,
The weirdo meter.
and
It's
that
next to the
doesn't roll
triple
off the
meter.
tongue. That doesn't roll off the tongue very well. So I'm willing to still call that a trip-o-meter rating.
Sure.
Anything else come to mind on this episode for you?
Um, there's not enough brain center in it. I was expecting a brain. I was hoping to see
Yeah.
like a big room with a brain in it, with a name like Brain Center and Whipple's. There's not
Maybe you
enough
do like
brain.
Agnes better. Okay. I guess it's just there's more personality with Agnes, right? Where I mean, the whole point is this computer can't have a personality or the episode doesn't work, right? Because it has to be this faceless, unthinking behemoth taking over everyone's jobs.
Yeah, but it's really Whipple doing it all, and the machine doesn't have. I don't know. It was. I guess my expectations were the machine was going to be more sentient and have some agency
Well,
in the
let's do
story,
a
but
season four thought experiment. Maybe in a 45-minute episode, you could flesh that would be how you'd flesh it out. You would have the machine kind of like ordering Whipple around a little more and interacting. You'd
yeah,
show
I
you'd
mean,
show that floor where, those empty parking lots and that empty factory or whatever.
there were some. I think most of their factory footage was in the corporate film at the beginning, which I kind of liked. I kind of liked the little corporate movie.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm always into
That
the
was
fake
neat.
ad and how
I
exciting is
was going to
about it. And
be.
anyone watching, I was like, that's horrible.
You should just do a special oral hygiene episodes just about that little film.
That would, yeah. I'm already doing a podcast on the entire episode. I think we're good.
Or we should preface this podcast with an episode about the short film.
No, we get. I think we just gave the short film its due. We're good on that one. Um, uh,
Yeah, no, it was just down your alley. I thought it was
okay.
funny.
I guess we're gonna smash this machine now. Smash it up. You know, workers' rebellion, all that sort of stuff. We are at podcastius.org. You can follow a bunch of podcasts. Give Time Enough Podcast a good rating review. Check out Films and Filth, where we talk about where it's supposed to be really good movies, really bad movies. Check out Podcast 1999, where we're talking about Planet of the Apes. Hey, check out Oral Hygiene, which I stopped doing 2 years ago, but that's where we cover a bunch of cult films and educational films, and as Luke over at Luke Loves Pokemon and another podcast said, is just things Matt wants to watch. That's what Oral Hygiene was, I guess. Okay, taking a crowbar, smashing that machine. That's how this episode should have ended, not with Robbie.
I'll be Kirk and say, "What does a robot need with a key fob?"
Smash time. That's what it needs. Okay, that's good. I assume you didn't have a plug, by the way, because you don't usually have
I don't
plugs.
plug anything. What do I
Right.
plug?
That's why I didn't ask. It's just we
My
haven't
plug
done
is
this
I'm
in a while,
here.
so I'm
Here
like,
I
yeah,
am.
exactly.
I'm on
That's
this
why
podcast.
that's why I
Okay.
didn't ask. Okay. But I was assuming as well, so I thought I should check in just in case.
If I ever get a podcast of my own, well, you'll be the first to know.
Okay. I was getting weird updates while we were doing that podcast about
I kept
what's
hearing a
this?
cat. You have a cat? It's not my cat.
Oh, it's just a band that has like using our okay. There's the band I play with in high school. There's this other band that has the same name, but the band's Evergreens or whatever. That does a very generic name, like
Evergreen.
you get 6,000 bands with that name. That's not weird.
That doesn't sound like a. Yeah.
That's why when later in life I came up with weirder band names and stick out a little more. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and stop this recording then.